Hello everyone, I'm Adam Small, Training Manager here at Harbortouch. Today we're going to be talking to you about the newest product from Harbortouch, Harbortouch Echo. We'll be going over the product from top to bottom, including all of the features that were released in the new version 1.0 of the software. We're also going to be reviewing features that have been on Harbortouch Echo since its launch. We'll take an in-depth look at the hardware and some of the different hardware accessories available on Harbortouch Echo. We're also going to review the paperwork that needs to be filled out in order to submit an account on Harbortouch Echo. And we'll take an in-depth look at the target markets for this product as well. So this training isn't going to dig into the nitty-gritty on how to configure every feature within the Harbortouch Echo software and how to actually configure and set up the Harbortouch Echo hardware. What it is going to do is give you a solid foundation on what the product can do and how you can best sell this exciting new product. So with that said, we'll go ahead and jump in. We've got a lot to talk about here today, so let's go ahead and get started. So the intention of Harbortouch Echo is to fill a gap that we had in the Harbortouch product line. There were a lot of accounts that we had a difficult time addressing because they wanted something more advanced and more modern than a standalone terminal or an electronic cash register, but they still didn't want something as complex as a full-featured point-of-sale system. Harbortouch Echo is designed to be simple, it's designed to be approachable, easy to use, easy to operate. So if you have a merchant who might not be tech savvy enough to take full advantage of the feature sets offered on an elite POS system, or if their business model just doesn't require the bells and whistles of a POS station, but maybe they still want something beyond a cash register or beyond a credit card terminal, then Harbortouch Echo could be a great fit for that business type. Harbortouch Echo is available with a 3-year contract, which includes a $39 monthly fee and a $79 annual fee. The product is designed to be a simple and approachable solution to both hospitality and retail merchants. But I do want to emphasize that this is just one product. The same software and the same hardware will apply to both the hospitality and retail merchants. And the software and hardware, they go hand in hand. It's not possible to run the Echo software on another piece of hardware or to run any other software on the Echo hardware. All right, so many of you have seen this before, but it does a good job illustrating where we want to see this product and what businesses and industries it's going to make the most sense in. So this pyramid represents the potential merchant accounts out there. At the very top are the most difficult accounts to land. Those are your major national chains. There's a very small number of these out there, and most of them have their own POS systems anyway. So currently, they're still a little bit out of reach of our current product lines. Next, you have your regional chains. Some of these can be accommodated by the elite POS systems, and we are slowly starting to see more and more regional chains signed, but they're still pretty few and far between. So next are going to be your mid-size merchants. These are really the bread and butter of the current elite POS market. These are the businesses that you see walking up and down Main Street. Now, our main target for Harbortouch Echo, those are going to be the small merchants, as you can see here on the pyramid there. Previously, these businesses were targeted with products like the standalone credit card terminals, your Hypercoms, your Verifone terminals, or maybe with an electronic cash register. However, as you guys know, this industry is always changing, and we saw a trend away from these products and towards the emerging tablet-based POS systems, where they just download an app, plug in a credit card reader, and start taking transactions on a consumer-facing tablet. There are tons of apps on the various app markets now that a merchant can download in order to help run their business and to take credit card transactions. So what we did at Harbortouch, we examined the current market out there, but we didn't want to just release another app into an already crowded marketplace. So we took a look at what businesses these were appealing to and tried to see how we could improve upon the existing solutions in order to capitalize on this trend towards the tablet-based POS systems. So there are a few things that we want to highlight that really set the Echo system apart from the other tablet-based POS systems out there. The main thing here is that Echo was designed to be a point-of-sale system from the bottom up. The hardware, the software, the operating system, they are all built specifically for this product. And this gives it a few key advantages over all the other systems out there. First, The screen size is bigger. Harbortouch Echo boasts a 13.3-inch screen. Even the largest consumer-facing tablets out there max out at around 10 inches in screen size, and this is going to allow Echo to use the real estate on the screen more effectively. It allows us to lay out the buttons and the functions on the product in a more logical and intuitive way than if we were working with a smaller screen. Also, we want to point out that the hardware itself is custom designed for business environments. It has the same aluminum casing and sleek design that you see on the Elite 2 stations. Tablets are designed to be recreational devices. For the most part, they're meant for browsing the internet or playing a game, reading a book, some things like that, while the Harbortouch Echo Station is designed to be in a merchant environment. It's designed to be on all day with someone using it, ringing in transactions. This is meant to be a commercial appliance rather than a recreational consumer-facing device. This is also reflected within the software. Harbortouch Echo runs on an Android-based operating system, but it's actually a custom-designed Android Linux hybrid. What this means is that the software isn't just an app that you download. The software is always on, it's always running, and employees can't exit out of the software. On a tablet-based POS system, you run the risk of an employee accidentally exiting out to the main screen or maybe intentionally logging out in order to play a game or check their Facebook or run some other sort of app which isn't related to the core functioning of the business. That's not an issue with Harbortouch Echo. Because it's designed to be a POS system, it only runs the software that we want it to. It also means that the software is designed to take full advantage of the hardware, so you don't have to pinch and zoom in order to get to core functions within the app. So while developing Harbortouch Echo, we weren't limited by any of the functions that would be inherent on an operating system on a traditional tablet. So before we dig in and actually take a look at the software here, there's a few other things that we want to point out about how Harbortouch Echo functions. First, one of the key things here is that it takes a modular approach to the different functions and features available on the software. So this means that we can activate and deactivate various features at any point in time. So if they don't want to use the customer database or they don't use discounts or order types, we can deactivate those and remove them from the interface. That's going to allow the system to be more streamlined, more of a logical approach than it would be if they had a lot of superfluous buttons and features on that screen. Also, Harbortouch Echo has 3 distinct modes that you can toggle back and forth between. It has calculator mode, ECR mode, and POS mode. Each one is a little bit more complex than the last. So we'll go ahead and jump into the software here, and we're going to start by taking a look at calculator mode. Okay, first we're going to log in with our 4-digit PIN in order to view the system in its most basic and streamlined mode, calculator mode. We'll go ahead and ring in some basic transactions here so you guys can get a feel for how the system's going to work. Though it is pretty simple, pretty straightforward, we would just ring in the transactions using this blue number pad over here on the right. You can see the items populating on the left-hand side on the check. Once we have all the transactions, all the items rang in, we can go ahead and select the green payment button. It's going to take us to our pay screen. We'll indicate this is a cash transaction. And then we'll go ahead and close out of that sale, move on to the next one. When the merchant first receives their Echo Station, it's going to default to calculator mode. And some merchants are going to want to keep it just like that. They don't want anything more complex than just this basic interface that we see here. However, most merchants are going to want something a little bit more complex than that. So once they program in a few menu items into that system, it's going to automatically switch over to what we call ECR mode, which we'll go ahead and take a look at here next. Once an item is added to the system, it's going to switch over from calculator mode to ECR mode. ECR mode has item buttons laid out across the screen in order to mimic the layout of a cash register. This allows for more detailed tracking and reporting, since sales can now be tied in with consistent items rather than just open prices. ECR mode retains a persistent calculator in the right-hand corner of the screen there, so not all items need to be programmed into the system for a merchant to start using ECR mode. This mode can easily handle dozens of unique items, as it can display up to 30 items on the screen at any time, and that's in addition to the calculator being on screen as well. It also has the option to hold multiple pages, each with 30 items on there. We also have full control over the display and layout of the buttons in this mode. If we go to Manager and then select Screen Edit Mode, we'll see that we can select a button, change the name, the color, move where it's located on the screen, or remove it entirely. So while ECR mode can handle a lot of merchant environments, eventually some accounts are going to outgrow this mode. They're going to need more buttons for more detailed tracking and reporting, and it's no longer going to be useful for them to have that open calculator at the bottom of the screen. So as a merchant's business operations continue to mature, they can go ahead and switch over to POS mode. POS mode will allow the merchant to easily access hundreds of menu items, as this mode makes use of departments and tags to categorize those items. Each department can hold 21 different menu items per page, and there can be multiple pages of items within a single department. There's also a scrollable list of departments that's displayed here in the middle of the screen, and there's no limit to how many departments can be in the system total. In addition to sorting items by department, we can also use alternative methods to locate particular items in the system. Tags are displayed next to the departments. This allows for us to create different categorizations of menu items. Here we can see items displayed based on daily specials rather than by department. Another method of finding items in the system is to use the search feature located at the top of the screen. By selecting Search, the user can type in the name of an item rather than sorting through the system using those tags and departments. Next, we'll take a look at how we can activate different modules within the system. There are several modules which can be activated and deactivated on Harbortouch Echo. Right now, we're seeing Echo running in POS mode with no modules running other than the Items and Departments module. If this module were to be deactivated, it would switch us back into calculator mode. So by going into settings and selecting different areas, we can activate new buttons on the screen, as we can see here now. We can expand the screen's functionality to allow for customers, employees, discounts, and order types. We'll take a look at some of these more advanced features now, starting with the customer database. Harbortouch Echo has the ability to track an unlimited number of customers via the customer database. By selecting Customer at the top of the screen, it'll show a list of the customers currently being tracked in the system. By touching on a customer's name, it'll show the information we can track about this customer. This includes their name, their email address, multiple phone numbers, and multiple physical addresses. We can also add tags to the customers just as we can to the items. There's also a small field here for notes about the customer and the customer's ID number. We can edit this information directly from this screen by selecting the Customer Profile button. From here, we can add and edit any information we saw on the previous screen. We'll go ahead and add an email address to this customer's profile now. Once we have all of the information entered and the correct customer selected, we can add them to the transaction by selecting Done. This will display the highlighted customer at the top of the check. Now we can start ringing in items onto the check. We'll start by ringing in a basic item, such as this Diet Pepsi. A basic item will add itself to the check on the left-hand side of the screen as soon as it's selected. After ringing in an item, we can click on that item to display the Item Options page. Some items will show the Item Options screen automatically if they have a required modifier set. Modifier sets allow the user to further customize a particular order, allowing for a more complex order, such as this turkey club sandwich on wheat bread with tomatoes, onions, and bacon, but no olives. We'll select Done to add this to the check. We'll see that the bacon adds a $1 upcharge to this order. Upcharges and additional pricing can be added to any modifier. We can bring back the Item Options screen if we need to make any additional changes just by selecting and clicking on any item on the check. At the top of the Item Options page, there's also a field for special requests. This can be used for any options which are not covered by the modifier sets already attached to the item. So for any strange or one-off requests, this field can be used. It's also going to print to the kitchen so that the cooks are aware of what needs to be done to the order. Above the special request field is the option to adjust the item's quantity. This can be used to easily add multiples of the same item to the check, or it can be used to ring in partial quantities. This is most commonly used for items which are sold by weight. Even though there's currently no scale available for Harbortouch Echo, we can manually type in the weight of the item in this field, and it's going to price accordingly. At the bottom of the screen, we can see the red Remove Item button, which will void a particular item from the check. Also on the Item Options screen, we can see an option for a discount. This is for discounts which apply just to one particular item. If we want a discount to apply to the entire check, we would close out of the Item Options screen and navigate to the Discounts button at the left-hand corner of the screen below the check. We'll take a closer look at how we can set up discounts later, but we wanted to point out how we can use these discounts on both individual items and on the entire check. Harbortouch Echo can also place an order on hold so it can be recalled and paid for later. Once an order is populated, we can select the Hold button at the top of the screen. This will store the transaction and allow it to be recalled at a later time. At any time, we can select the Recall button to view these transactions. Held orders are orders which still require payment. We can identify the order using the timestamp, the customer's name, or the order number. It's also possible to recall orders which have already been paid out. By selecting Completed Sales, we can view and recall past transactions. It's also possible to issue a refund from this screen if necessary. We'll go ahead and navigate back to our held orders now. That way we can recall the previous transaction so we can pay it out and take a look at some of the different payment functions within the Harbortouch ecosystem. Once the check is ready to be paid out, we'll have several options for closing out the check. The quickest way to pay out a transaction is to use the Fast Pay buttons located at the bottom of the screen. These will pay out the transaction automatically with cash. You'll see common tender amounts being populated at the bottom of the screen, and these will also adjust as more items are added to the transaction. We'll go ahead and pay out this transaction now using the Fast Pay buttons at the bottom of the screen. It'll automatically close out with cash, and then we'll ring in another transaction so that we can pay it out using a credit card. To do so, we'll select the green Pay button at the bottom of the screen. This is going to take us to our generic payment screen. From here, we can pay out a transaction using cash or a credit card or any other payment type. In order to run a credit card transaction, we would just swipe the card through on this screen and it's automatically going to populate the information. If the system is set up to accept tips, it'll prompt us to add a tip to the transaction. There will be 3 preset tip amounts which can be customized in the settings screen. There will also be an option to add a custom tip amount or to proceed without adding any tip at all. At this point, the system can be configured to prompt for the customer to sign on the screen. This feature can be used in conjunction with the 180-degree rotation which is offered on Harbortouch Echo. The merchant would simply need to push the release located below the screen and spin the screen towards the customer so that they can sign for the transaction. If they prefer, this option can be disabled and the customer can still sign on the credit card slip, which prints at the end of the transaction. Once the tip is added and the signature has been captured, we can select the blue Continue button to finalize the transaction. If we need to refund the transaction, we would use the Recall function and navigate to Completed Sales. Here, we would find the transaction which we're looking to refund, highlight it, and select the red Refund button. It'll ask us if we want to refund the whole transaction or just one individual item, and it will then prompt us for a reason as to why the transaction is being refunded. It'll ask us once more to confirm the refund before reversing the sale. If we navigate back to the main screen, we can also see how to issue an open refund. To do so, we would select Manager and then Open Refund. It'll prompt us for the amount of the refund. We'll then select Refund and choose a tender. At this time, open refunds can only be issued in cash. It'll prompt us for a refund reason and then ask us to confirm the refund once more before issuing the money. At this point, we're going to go ahead and log out of the system and then log back in as a regular employee rather than the admin user. By doing so, we're going to take a look at pretty much all the features that we've looked at so far, tying them all together. And we're also going to take a look at one of the largest and one of the newest features on Harbortouch Echo, and that is the employee time clock and labor features. So we'll go ahead and log out now and then log in as a regular employee. The first thing that we'll notice is that now when we log in as an employee, If the user has multiple jobs available to them, it's going to ask them which job that they're going to be working this shift. And if they're not already clocked in, it's going to alert us at the bottom of the screen that it started a shift for that user. So now we're going to bring in a few quick transactions and then proceed to check out our shift report. We're going to bring in just a few basic transactions here. The first one, we'll just bring in a simple item and pay it out with cash. For this next transaction, we're going to pay this one out with a credit card, and we're going to go ahead and use the signature screen and add a tip to that transaction as well. For this third transaction, we'll apply another cash transaction, but this time we're also going to apply a discount using one of these discounts that we have available to us in the system. We'll then pay that one out as well. All right, and now we'll go ahead and take a look at the shift report for this user. So we're going to load this employee's shift report, first by selecting the employee's name in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. On the screen, we're going to see a few options available to us. The third one is going to read shift report. Once we click on the shift report, we're going to be able to see a lot of different information. First, it's going to show any captured credit card tips for that particular shift. We can also view and declare any cash tips that have been collected during that shift for this employee. You can also see two options down here. The blue button is going to send this employee on break, and the red button is going to clock them out and end that shift entirely. Also at the bottom of the screen, we can see a couple different buttons. We can see options to view and print out the shift report. If we select view, the shift report is going to pop up and we're going to see a lot of different information here. The clock in and clock out times for that particular shift, the total amount of time that the employee was clocked in for that shift, how much of that time the employee spent on breaks. It's also going to show us any tips from credit card sales, which are still owed to the employee for that shift. We're also going to see totals for the number of tickets, the amounts in discounts and taxes that were ran during that particular shift. Now we're going to select back, which takes us right back to the main ordering screen. From here, we're going to take a look at the time clock screen, which can be found under the manager settings. From the time clock screen, a user can view past shift reports and can view shift reports for other users. We can view the reports of all of the employees in the system, or we can just highlight one particular employee and just view shifts from that user. At the top of the screen, we can also adjust the time frame, so we can narrow down exactly which shifts that we want to view. By selecting a shift, we can edit the properties of that shift. We can adjust the clock in and clock out times. So if a user claims that they arrived early and just forgot to clock in, we can adjust that timestamp, so it'll be reflected on the reporting. We can also change a job which was worked during that shift, how much the employee declared in cash tips. We can view and print the reports from this interface, and we can even delete the shift entirely. Just as we can delete entire shifts, we can also create a new one using the Add Shift button. So if an employee forgets to clock in for an entire day shift, we can add that shift in retroactively. We just need to select the employee, select the Add Shift button. From here, we'll set the clock in time and also when the user clocked out. We'll be sure to record any breaks that they took during that shift. Then once we hit save, that shift is going to be reflected on the time clock screen and in all of the labor reports. So now that we've taken a look at the labor aspects of the system, the time clock feature, and we've taken a look at some of the different reports available in the system, we're going to back out, go to the manager screen, and then select settings. The settings screen is going to allow the merchant to customize the system to meet the needs of their business. All modules can be activated, deactivated, and edited through this interface. The settings screens will only be accessible if the user has management permissions. If the user does not have any management permissions, it'll prompt them for a manager's override PIN before they can access anything within the manager or settings screen. We'll go ahead and take a look at the first category here for general settings. General settings is where the user can set which view, ECR or POS, that they want the system to default to. They can also name the register to make it easier to keep track of different stations. The timeout time is how long the system will remain idle before going to the login screen. There's also a toggle here for accepting tips and for settling the default tip amounts. At the bottom of the screen, we can see when the business day will roll over, how much cash the drawer starts with, and what email address the batch info will be sent to. By selecting taxes, we can configure various tax rates in the system. This also includes the option of hidden taxes, which means that the tax will be rolled into the price of the item rather than being added on later. If we go to the tender screen, we can adjust how various tender types work within the system. We'll now move on and take a look at some options on the hardware settings screen. The hardware settings screen has options for configuring both the local printer and the remote printer. This includes some options for formatting the receipt and setting the font size. Clock settings is where we can set what time zone the system will use. Network settings and support log are only used for technical support and troubleshooting. Next, we'll back out and take a look at receipt settings. Receipt settings gives us further control on how to customize how the receipt works within the system. We can toggle the option to print and email receipts to the customers, and we can also toggle what information appears in the receipts and the kitchen tickets. We'll now move on and take a look at departments and items. Departments and items is where we can create and adjust the structure of the menu in the system. Department setup is where we can create and edit the broadest category on the menu, the departments which hold the individual items. This is usually where the taxes are applied. Item setup is where we configure the core building block of the system, the items themselves. We can set the name of the item, a short name which will appear in ECR mode. We can then choose the style of the button, which department it belongs to, and modifiers or tags that we want associated with the item. We can also set the price of the item along with the cost of the item to the business. Quantity on hand is going to tie in with the inventory tracking, which we'll take a look at in a few moments. We can page over for more item options. Here we can see some custom attributes which can be added to these items. These attributes can be used to track any information which isn't already tracked in the system, such as vendor and shelf life in this instance. We can configure the item to be sold by weight, allowing us to type in the weight of each item each time it's entered. This is also where we would scan in the barcode for the item, allowing it to be rang in using the barcode scanner. Modifier sets are groups of modifiers. We can toggle if this is a required option or if it allows more than one option to be selected. So in this case, adding toppings is an optional set which can be bypassed and many modifiers can be selected, while bread choice is required and only allows one modifier per item. At the bottom of the screen, we can select which modifiers belong to this particular modifier set, and we can set a price which applies to all options within the set. Modifiers are the individual choices which are contained within a modifier set. So a modifier set might be dressings, while the actual modifiers would be ranch, Italian, balsamic, etc. We can set a price and a cost on each modifier in the system. Custom attributes allow us to track information on our items which is not tracked in the system by default. The user can add in any information using this setting so that it can be tracked on each item. For instance, some businesses may want to know the country of origin for their items. Even though this isn't an option in the system by default, we can add it here using a custom attribute. Item tags allow us an alternative way of sorting through items in the system. Here, we can see items being categorized by what day they are on special, and they can display in this way in addition to being displayed by department. Item tracking allows us to see how many of a given item are left in stock, and it allows us to edit that number. This can be useful for individually packaged items. However, the system will only be able to track on the item level, so it cannot do ingredient tracking, and it cannot tie like items together in any way. On the main employee screen, we're going to see a toggle to track the employee's hours with the time clock feature and to track their breaks on the system, and we have a toggle to decide if the breaks are paid or unpaid. Selecting employee setup And then selecting an employee will allow us to view the information that we can track about the employees in the system. That's going to include their name, their phone number, email address, their home address. From this screen, we're also going to be able to select which jobs the employee is eligible to perform, and if the system is going to track labor on that particular employee. This is also where we'll set the employee's login PIN and assign it to a magnetic swipe card. If we go back and then take a look at the job screen, we'll see several options that affect how the job is tracked. If that job has access to view or print the shift report, if the job tracks cash tips, and if breaks are being tracked on that particular job. We're also going to see some security options listed down here at the bottom of the screen. Here we can require the employee to log in with a magnetic swipe card rather than with a 4-digit PIN. We can also select which discounts the job has access to and which employees can log in as this job. If we select the blue permissions button, we're going to see a greatly expanded list of permissions in the system, which will determine exactly which features and functions each user has access to. If the user tries to perform a function they don't have permission for, they're going to be prompted to enter a manager override PIN. Next, we're going to take a look at the discount screen. From here, we can discount the transaction in 3 ways: by taking an amount off, by taking a percentage off, and by setting a new price. We can also determine if the discount will apply automatically or not. We can restrict when the discount can be applied based on which items are selected, which job is being performed, and which customers are on the ticket. There are also options at the bottom which determine when the discount can be applied. We can set which days of the week, a date range, and a specific time of day for when this discount can be applied. We'll next take a look at the customer database. We already took a look at the customer database a little bit earlier in the presentation. We can see all the same options available here from the settings screen as we had directly from the order screen when we rang in a customer and attached them to the check. We can always go back here to add or edit any information that we're tracking about our customers in the system. Lastly, we'll take a quick look at order types. Order types allow us to do a few different things to differentiate how a particular order is going to ring in the system. We can see here we have options for applying a surcharge to an item, whether or not it requires a customer, whether or not it requires an address, whether or not the address will print, and which taxes are applicable to that specific order type. Now we'll take a look at the Harbortouch Echo end of day process. To do so, we'll back out of the settings screen, select Manager, and then select End of Day. From here, we'll see a simple and intuitive end of day screen. We can see all the different registers which are attached to the same MID just by scrolling through them at the top. It's going to let us know how much cash is in the drawer and how much we've done in different payment types throughout the day. At the bottom of the screen, we'll have an Adjust Tips option. By selecting Adjust Tips, we can check, adjust, and finalize all of the tips in the system before closing out for the day. We also have an option to pop open the drawer directly from the end of day screen, and there's a bill calculator which can help us determine the cash totals after counting out the drawer. Selecting X Report will print out a report that summarizes the activity for the day, and this report will also be emailed if we set up the system with an email address under the General Settings page. We'll now take a look at the reporting capabilities of Harbortouch Echo. Reporting is an essential part of any point-of-sale system, and Harbortouch Echo has lots of helpful reports available. We don't have time to go through every report available on Harbortouch Echo, but we'll cover a few of the most popular ones now. To view these reports, we'll go back to the main order screen, select Manager, and then select Reports. First, we'll take a look at some of the sales reports, starting with the financial overview. The financial overview provides us with a useful snapshot on how the business is performing. It shows us the gross and net sales for each department, a summary of the cash flow in and out of the business, which tender types are most popular, how much the business has collected in taxes, the top performing employee, a summary of discounts used, breakdown by order type, and a list of best-selling items. The ticket detail report gives us a breakdown for individual orders. It'll show us a list of all the orders that were ran within the set time frame. At a glance, it's going to tell us the order number, the order type, the name of the customer, the totals, the payment method, and the employee who rang in the sale. But if we want more information about a particular order, we can click on one of these and it's going to show us further details about that particular order. Once we bring up a specific order, it's going to show us the items that were sold, as well as some details about the payment method. Because this one was paid with a credit card, we can see the last 4 digits of the card used and the authorization code. The item sales summary gives us a rundown of each item and some details about the sales on those items. This is going to include the item's department, the number of times it was sold, and how much in sales that it's brought in. We'll now take a look at the sales summary by report. Now this is really several reports all pulled into one. If we select the filter by button here, we're going to see a number of different ways to display this sales report. We can filter the sales report by item, by department, by order type, by employee, or by customer. So even though this is really one report in the system, it effectively gives us 5 reports because we can pull it from any of those different criteria. We'll now shift gears and take a look at some of the labor reports. First one that we're going to take a look at is going to be sales and labor summary. This is going to show an hour-by-hour breakdown of the sales that occurred within that time frame. The next report here is going to be labor by employee. This is going to show how many shifts the employee worked within their time frame, and it's also going to show their total hours, and it's going to factor in the breaks. Labor by employee by job is a similar report. This one, in addition to the other report, also includes the job title for each user. Keep in mind that a single user can work multiple jobs. The next report we'll take a look at here is going to be employee labor detail. This is going to break down the specific clock in and clock out times for each shift and for each user. The tax form 4070 report is also now available. This ties in with the shifts as it's going to report how much in tips the user has captured and declared on these given shifts. All the shifts performed within the selected time frame on this report. We can adjust the time frame that this is going to pull for, and we can also select which user is being displayed by touching on the filter by section and then selecting the user from the list. All of these reports are available to view on the HT Echo stations, but they can also be accessed on the web via Harbortouch Online. Harbortouch Online allows the business owner to access all of their reports on any system which has a web browser. By navigating to hto.harbortouch.com, a business owner can log in with their username and password in order to view information about their business online. By going to Reports and Statements and then selecting Echo Reports, it will show a list of the reports available. This is the same list of reports that's available on the HT Echo station itself. From here, we can change the date and times that we're using to pull the reports. The subscription button will allow the user to have the report automatically emailed to them in regular intervals. We just need to indicate what email address we want the report sent to, how often we want it to send, and the format that we want it sent in. The download button will allow the user to download the report for their records, and print will display a printer-friendly version of the report. Like all Harbortouch merchants, Harbortouch Echo accounts can view their statements and credit card processing data, like batches and deposits, directly from the Harbortouch Online interface. Look for the feature set available on Harbortouch Online to grow as Harbortouch Echo continues to develop. Next, we're going to take a brief look at the Harbortouch Echo hardware, as well as some of the different hardware accessories that are being offered with this system. The hardware which runs Harbortouch Echo was custom designed specifically for this system. Harbortouch Echo features a 13.3-inch touchscreen display, an aluminum stand and shell. It utilizes flash storage for optimal performance. It also has a brand new powered USB receipt printer, which is going to use less cords and take up less power than our existing receipt printer. The dual hinge stand allows for flexible adjustment and mounting. Has built-in speakers, an integrated customer display, an optional physical keyboard, and it can rotate 180 degrees for on-screen customer signing. The dimensions of the Harbortouch Echo Station are 9.5 inches deep, 14 inches wide, and 10.5 inches tall. These dimensions can vary depending on how the system is adjusted using the dual hinge stand. Oftentimes, the Harbortouch Echo is set up on top of the cash drawer with the receipt printer sitting next to it, as seen in the picture here. If this is the case, we would recommend a 20 by 20 by 20 inch space for comfortable operation. Another key feature of Harbortouch Echo hardware is the ability of the screen to rotate 180 degrees, allowing it to also function as a customer-facing signature pad. The rotation mechanism ensures that the station rotates smoothly and effortlessly, but only when the release is pressed. Harbortouch Echo has two joints which allow it to accommodate almost any potential setup. There are hinges located at both ends of the arm which connects the screen and the base. These hinges will allow the Echo Station to point straight out, which can be used in conjunction with the VESA mounting patterns located on the bottom of the station, if a business wants to have the station mounted onto a wall. Here we can see the receipt printer, which is being offered with the Harbortouch Echo Station. This is a thermal receipt printer, does not require any ink. Also, it is powered by the same USB connection which connects it to the Harbortouch Echo Station. So there's only one cord that you have to worry about when setting up this printer. The dual orientation allows it to sit on one of two sides, allowing it to be more adaptable and to be mounted underneath the counter more easily. Has a very small footprint, 5.5 inches by 5.5 inches. It doesn't take up much room on the counter, and allows us to print more dynamic receipts with graphics and QR codes as well. The same printer is available in two different models, one of which is the receipt printer, and the other of which is going to be used as the remote printer. You can see on the screen here how the same basic printer is going to be sent out with just different ports available depending on which model of printer you're going to be using. Both use thermal paper. They use the same 3 1/8 inch thermal paper that we've been sending out with our printers for quite some time now. Let's see, and the remote printer is going to be a one-time cost of $165. The cash drawer on the Harbortouch Echo is very similar to the cash drawers that you've seen sent out on the Elite stations. There is a new design. We now have an aluminum front panel which matches the aesthetics of the Harbortouch Echo Station itself. Like the way we set them up with the Elites, the receipt printer is going to connect, the cash drawer is going to connect directly to the receipt printer, and this is going to be included with each Harbortouch Echo purchase. We're also offering a barcode scanner with Harbortouch Echo. This is available for a one-time fee of $99 per barcode scanner. This is going to allow it to function in more of a retail environment if you guys have retail merchants looking at Harbortouch Echo. It's also going to be an integrated customer display, which attaches right to the back of the station. This is going to display the totals of the items being rang in and the total of the whole check once we go to pay out the screen. Also, there will be a keyboard sent out with the Harbortouch Echo Stations. These keyboards are going to be the small flexible keyboards. They're waterproof and much more durable than the plastic keyboards that we have been sending out. Next, we're going to take a look at the paperwork required when submitting an HT Echo deal. There are two primary pieces of paperwork which you'll need to know in order to submit an account: the Echo POS setup form and the POS service agreement. We'll start by taking a look at the Echo POS setup form. The Echo POS setup form is meant to give the team at Harbortouch a solid idea of what kind of business this is so that they can ensure the account is configured correctly. The top part of the document will ask for some basic information about the business and points of contact. Keep in mind that the point of contact does not have to be the owner, but it should be somebody who's comfortable making decisions on behalf of the business and will be involved in its day-to-day operations. The form will then ask how the account is currently handling transactions. Due to the feature set on Echo, it's important to ensure that the merchant will be having all of the functionality that they need to operate their business. and the expectations that a merchant has about functionality is often colored by the previous system they were using. If this is a second business location, it may be possible to save time by reusing information from an earlier account. This can help ensure that the system ships more quickly and would mean less work for the merchant in getting the system populated with their information. It's also important that the merchant is open for business or is about to open when the system arrives. It can lead to confusion and frustration if the building's not ready for commercial use. We're also going to ask the date the merchant intends on setting up this system and if a Spanish-speaking representative will be required. The second page asks for business model information. This is here to ensure that Harbortouch Echo will be a good fit for this particular business. Harbortouch offers a wide array of POS products, and sometimes it's not always clear which product will best fit which business. Filling out this form helps the order administration team ensure that your merchant is getting the product which is right for them. This page is also going to ask if they plan on using Harbortouch gift cards, and it's going to ensure that the merchant has a usable high-speed internet connection at their business location. The next form we'll take a look at is the POS service agreement, or the Exhibit A. This is the contract that the merchant signs which confirms which products and services they will be receiving from Harbortouch. It's going to ask for some basic contact information at the top, and then it will display the different enrollment options. Harbortouch Echo is available for $39 a month for each station ordered. Each station includes a receipt printer, cash drawer, flexible waterproof keyboard, an integrated customer display, and 5 server cards. These are included at no additional charge. There are several optional hardware accessories available, including a remote printer, a barcode scanner, cash till, and additional employee cards. Look for an announcement on the NFC reader and debit pin pad coming soon. One of the distinctions between the Harbortouch Echo contract and the Harbortouch Elite contract is that the accessories for the Echo are only available for purchase. They cannot be set for a monthly fee like they can for the Elite system. Instead, they would just pay the one-time fee with no recurring costs. Next, the document's going to ask for shipping information, and then if the merchant requires an on-site technician to perform the installation. Echo is designed to be simple enough that a professional technician should not be required for the system to be installed. But if the merchant still wants someone on site, this can be accommodated for a $150 fee. The second page is where the owners on the account would sign off. This should be the owner of the business, not an employee or a manager. This form is a legally binding document, and if someone who is not the owner signs and then leaves the business, it can cause a lot of difficulties down the road. The rest of the document outlines the terms and conditions of the POS service agreement. We won't dig into the legal details of the contract, but it's recommended that the merchant reads them over before signing the above portion. So once a merchant fills out the paperwork, what happens next? There are a few steps that a business will go through once the paperwork is submitted before they're ready to start running sales. First, they'll need to fill out the wizard. The Echo Setup Wizard is sent to merchants via email once the account is approved, and it's very important that this gets filled out. The Harbortouch Echo Station will not be able to function until the Setup Wizard is complete. The link with the Setup Wizard expires after 24 hours, but if you or the merchant call in, this can easily be reset. Completing the Setup Wizard is easy. It just asks the merchant to confirm some basic information about their business and asks them to answer some simple questions so the system is set up for handling things like taxes, tenders, and tips once it arrives. The wizard is not used for filling out the system with items. This is done by the merchant after it arrives. If you know that the merchant will be receiving the equipment soon, we strongly recommend that you check to see if the merchant has completed the Setup Wizard. And if not, the Echo team can resend that email so the merchant can have that completed when the equipment arrives. Now, as we mentioned, the Harbortouch Echo is designed to be simple enough to install and set up that a professional installer should not be required. The Harbortouch Echo Station just needs a connection to a power outlet, a hardline connection to the router, and the receipt printer is connected with one cable, which transmits both data and power. Most of the other hardware accessories are connected with a simple USB cable. Harbortouch support can provide over-the-phone support if the merchant has any questions during the installation process, and there are several guides sent with the system to help them get started. And as we mentioned in the previous slide, we can also send out an on-site technician for a $150 fee. The Harbortouch Echo team is going to help ensure that the merchant's ecosystem is ready to use. We strongly recommend that the merchant schedule an appointment with the Echo team at least 48 hours in advance so they can walk through testing the equipment and ensuring that the merchant understands how to use the system. The Echo team can explain how the merchant can program the system with their items and how they can use the various features and functions that we saw earlier. Right now, there is a high volume of Echo orders being submitted, so it's very important that the training and go-live support is scheduled with the Echo team in advance. Scheduled appointments will take precedence over unscheduled calls, and while the support team is available 24/7, our Echo specialists are very busy helping the new Echo customers get acclimated to their systems. To schedule an appointment, please send an email to echoteam@harbortouch.com. If you want more information and documents on Harbortouch Echo, be sure to check the Harbortouch online sales portal. By navigating to Sales and Marketing and then selecting Echo POS, you'll find lots of guides, documents, and marketing materials. This is going to include all of the paperwork that we covered earlier, some marketing materials including the Harbortouch Echo brochure, and a really useful guide for comparing which businesses are the best fit for Harbortouch Echo versus which ones are the best fit for Harbortouch Elite. There's also the Echo user guide and the installation guide available at the top of the page. Look for this section to expand as more and more Echo materials are made available. Next, we'll take some time to discuss how Harbortouch Echo handles networking. At this time, Harbortouch Echo will not be able to connect to a router wirelessly. This has caused some confusion because the hardware does have the capability to connect to wireless networks. However, this technology will be used in conjunction with HTNet once this component of the system is released. HTNet is a hidden, encrypted, and proprietary wireless network that will allow all Echo stations to wirelessly communicate with one another and serve as signal repeaters to allow wireless networking on the local area network. Even with the release of HTNet, one Echo station will still need an Ethernet connection to the Harbortouch router, and the rest of the stations can gain internet access wirelessly from the Echo station which is connected to the router. The release date for HTNet has not yet been determined. So until HTNet is released, each Harbortouch Echo station needs its own hardline connection to the Harbortouch router, which is supplied to each account which orders an Echo station. All right, and now we'll talk a little bit about some target markets here. Harbortouch Echo is going to be able to accommodate a lot of different industries. The industries that Harbortouch Echo was designed to be a very strong fit for are the ones that you see listed here. We do want to target that mobile micro merchant market. However, we do need some kind of a wireless connection, either that 3G, 4G router and the Harbortouch Net, the HTNet wireless network available. So that one's still a little bit out of reach for the product as it stands right now, though we are looking to add some features to Harbortouch Echo in order to better accommodate that. After that, you do have your counter service businesses. These are places where you just walk up to the register, order your food, and then go seat yourself at a table, or maybe a pickup environment like Chinese, wings, sandwich shops, places like that. You can call in ahead. They can place the order on hold, use that hold and recall feature. You can use the customer database to attach customer names, which is going to appeal a lot to that counter service pickup environment. On the retail side, we have micro retail. These are mall kiosks, souvenir stands, not even like a brick and mortar establishment, more of a kiosk or a booth that might sell just a very small, very limited number of items. Simple retail, these are going to be brick and mortar businesses that focus on one specific niche. This could be a bookstore or a thrift store, candle shops, not a large department store, but more of a niche retail outlet that isn't going to need quite as many in-depth features as a full feature point of sale system like Harbortouch Retail. And then this system can also handle a hybrid retail and hospitality environment. This is exciting because before those were always two very separate products which address those industries. But with Harbortouch Echo, we do have features for the hospitality side like the modifiers, the kitchen printing, as well as features from the retail side like the item tracking, the scannable barcodes, which is going to allow us to hit places like convenience stores and corner stores which dabble in in both those areas. So I also want to emphasize that determining which product, either the Elite system or the Echo system, determining which of those is going to work best in which business is a very important determination which will need to be made by our sales partners. And it's not always easy to determine which business is the best fit for which product. I've had a lot of people ask me, where's the line? Well, what is the determining factor on whether an account should be on Elite or Echo? One person said, is it safe to say that if they're making over $50,000 a month, they should be on Elite, and under $50,000 should be on Echo? And that's really not the best way to think about this product. Echo isn't inherently a high-end or a low-end machine. What it is a simple and approachable POS solution. So what we need to focus on isn't how much money the business makes or how many employees they have or what the square footage is. What we need to focus on is what the feature sets are that this business needs. What are they looking for? And also, how complex are their business operations? For instance, we could have a very successful and profitable business that has a very simple operation. And that would be a great fit for Harbortouch Echo. This could be something like a sunglasses stand on the beach in a good area that generates a lot of tourism. They can mark up their sunglasses and make a ton of money, but their operations are still very simple. They don't need some of the more complex feature sets that are available on the Elite systems. And on the other side of the coin, you could have a tiny little hole-in-the-wall bar that maybe isn't making that much money and seems like it might be a good fit for Echo. But if they want to do things like pre-authorized credit cards, split checks between different people, offer loyalty points to their recurring customers, hold tabs over the course of several days, use house accounts, things like that, then the feature set that they're going to require is going to make a system like Harbortouch Hospitality a better fit. The sunglasses stand may make more money, but because it doesn't need as many bells and whistles, it's a better fit for Harbortouch Echo than the little hole-in-the-wall bar. Another good way to think about where to put Harbortouch Echo is to imagine a shopping mall. You generally have 2 department stores at each end. These places need advanced inventory tracking, purchase orders, custom barcodes, a lot of things that are going to make them a better fit for something like Harbortouch Retail on the Elite systems. In a shopping mall, you generally also have a few nice full-service restaurants at either end. These places are going to want features like check splitting, table side, graphical table layout, reservations, things like that. They're going to make them a better fit for Harbortouch Hospitality on the Elite systems. But you're also going to have a few counter service places in the food court. These are going to be an excellent fit for Harbortouch Echo because they don't need those features. You would just walk up to the cash register, order your food, and then go sit down at one of the tables. And also, in between the 2 department stores, you're going to have several smaller retail stores going up and down the mall. These might be a good fit for Echo too. If they don't require advanced feature sets, then you'll also have the booths and kiosk at the center of the mall. Those are almost certainly a better fit for Harbortouch Echo than the Elite systems. Again, it's all about what features that business needs and how complex our operations are. Now, generally, we would advise staying away from places like bars, restaurants, and more complex retail operations. But it is possible that like a bar or a restaurant might also be a good fit for Harbortouch Echo if they're not interested in some of those more complex feature sets. Some of these places have been operating on a cash register or a standalone credit card terminal for years. They're not used to having features like tableside ordering on an iPad and loyalty and all these other great things that come with Harbortouch Hospitality on Elite. Sometimes all the merchant's going to want to do is type in $5 item plus a $7 item plus a $2 item and then total it out, swipe the card, and send the customer on their way. For instances like that, as long as they're aware that this product is designed to be a simple and approachable solution for that business, and that they do run the risk of outgrowing what the feature set is. As long as the merchant's aware of that, you still might be able to find some bars, restaurants, and other places like that that might be a good fit for Harbortouch Echo. But we just have to be very aware, we have to be cognizant of exactly what they're expecting from the system and what the feature sets that they need are. I would recommend strongly against putting someone on Harbortouch Echo solely because of that lower price point. It's generally not a good experience if they get the system and then a few months into it they realize that they need something a little bit more advanced, that it doesn't do everything that they wanted. They wind up calling us up, they'll call you up, and tends to be a headache for everybody involved. So if you do put a merchant on Harbortouch Echo, make sure that you're doing it based on what feature sets they need, not just based on that price point. All right, that's going to conclude our presentation.